Hey, this is Zachlog the Great. I want to talk today to Christians who consider themselves on the political left. I I don't know what to make of you. You confound me. Only God knows your heart, and I won't judge your faith. But not long after Jesus told us not to judge, he also instructed us to watch for false teachers and said that we could recognize them by their fruits. So I can, indeed must, judge what you believe and especially what you teach to others. Jesus said that the world hated him and will hate those who follow him. James said that friendship with the world means enmity with God. Now, before we go any further, it seems necessary to explain what I mean by the world here. It seems obvious to me that it describes the centers of worldly power, the institutions held by those who wield influence on this earth. So, what would those be today? The government, obviously, and in particular the unelected government that is further out of the reach of the will of the people. Big corporations are another obvious answer. Banks, multi-million dollar multinational firms. The shapers of culture, Hollywood and the news media on one side, the universities and public schools on the other. I'm sure I could come up with more, but I think this covers a lot of the territory. Now, leftist Christians, I look at what you believe and I look at what these centers of worldly power teach, and I can't for the life of me tell the difference. On issue after issue, you sound just like them. Sexuality and relations between the sexes, they happily applaud promiscuity, saying it's no big deal. So do you. Homosexual marriage, transgenderism, not a sliver of daylight between you. And please, prove me wrong. I'm all ears. Name one major corporation that is openly opposed to the LGBT STFU agenda. Chick-fil-A? Really? Their company is worth about 5% of Apple. Only about 10% of the net worth of either of Google's founders. The individuals, not the company. Try again. And what about the roles of men and women? Virtually every university in this country, which is not explicitly Christian, is all on board with feminism and misandry. It is easier to count the ones which don't have a women's studies department than those that do. And what do these departments teach? That men are horrible, abusive monsters who should surrender their leadership to women. That the traditional family is an expression of patriarchal oppression of women. Any disagreement here, leftist Christians? Any of you standing up for the leadership of men in the family? Protesting churches becoming increasingly feminized? Standing up against the constant torrent of messages from our culture portraying men as stupid, helpless, and untrustworthy? I haven't seen it. Let's look at another contentious issue these days, immigration and race. What do all these centers of worldly power agree on? Open borders, one world, nationalism is evil. Also, racism is the worst evil imaginable. Racism is so bad that the faintest hint of it is an excuse to get someone fired, wreck their reputation. Racism is so terrible, so insidious, that we must be constantly on guard against institutional racism, even when we can't point to one single real person acting out of racial hatred. And what about you, leftist Christians? You demand open borders. You cherry pick verses from the Bible to make your case that we have this unending obligation to people of other countries to let them in and support them. Conveniently, you ignore that there is an entire book of the Bible about how great it is to build a wall to defend your people. In an SJW-friendly church, you are infinitely more likely to hear a sermon on the evils of racism than one denouncing sexual immorality or exhorting us to honor our fathers and mothers. The world constantly downplays the idea of personal responsibility, instead teaching us that all our misfortunes are the result of persecution of the man in some form or other. Patriarchy, white supremacy, heteronormativity. Poverty is never the result of poor people's bad choices. It's the exploitative capitalist system. The criminal is not at fault for his crimes. It's all caused by the ills of society. Any real difference of opinion here, leftist Christians? No, not so much, huh? Now, none of this proves that your viewpoints are wrong or misguided. None of this even demonstrates that your views are unchristian. However, Jesus did say, "If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you." John 15:18-19. Does the world hate you? How could it? You agree on almost everything. Now, does this prove you wrong? Does it prove your beliefs unchristian? No. But doesn't it trouble you? Doesn't it make you wonder, in the slightest, if just maybe you've gone down the wrong path? Or maybe I'm totally off base. Perhaps the world and human nature have radically changed since Jesus' time. Perhaps James was wrong and friendship with the world is entirely compatible with friendship with God. Yeah, that's probably it.